it's Penny here, and today we're going to be building my TBR for November. As usual, I will be using my TBR machine website that I made that spits out random reading prompts to pick 3 books off my TBR. I'm trying to get down to TBR 0, but I'll be doing a haul later in the month, which will ruin that slightly. Never mind. Also, before I get into those ones, I do have a few books from the library. Firstly, I've got Over the Woodward Wall by A. Deborah Baker, although this is actually by Seanan McGuire. This is a book that is referred to in Middle Game. It's a book that a character in Middle Game called A. Deborah Baker, or was she named by something else and this was her pen name? I forget. I might need to reread Middle Game after I read this. But regardless, this is a book that was essentially used to put ideas into the minds of children that then would kind of create these beliefs that would enable magic in the world. So hopefully if enough of us read this, that will actually happen in real life, right? That's how it works. Anyway, I'm excited to read this. It's kind of like a children's book about these 2 children. One I think really follows the rules and the other one is a bit more eccentric, and they've always live really close, but then they meet each other in this magical world. That might not be right, but I'm going to read this for sure this month. I also have Malory by Josh Malerman. So this is the sequel to Bird Box. In Bird Box, this thing happens where people start seeing something, and when they see it they get very violent and start attacking people and eventually kill themselves. It's not very nice, and so people are locked away in their houses, and whenever they go out they have to cover their eyes up so that they can't see. And in Bird Box we were following this woman named Malory during the kind of the beginning of this, I want to call it a pandemic. I think I've just been using the word pandemic too much lately, but it's kind of a pandemic because it's spreading through all these people. So she's dealing with when that first starts happening, but also it's following a later timeline where she's trying to take these 2 children to safety. And I always wondered what happens next, and I think this book is going to tell me what happens next. So I'm super excited to read that as well. And then my last library book is The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. All these library books are quite shiny, aren't they? So Stuart Turton was the author of The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I really liked, so I'm hoping that I'll like this too. I don't know much about it, except I think it's meant to be a Sherlock Holmes style murder mystery, except there's demons. I also believe that it's mostly set on a ship, so I guess it's kind of like a murder where you know it has to be someone on the ship that did it because everyone's on the ship. I'm also really sad that I can't see this because it's a library edition. So hopefully I'll like it, and then I'll have an excuse to buy my own copy where I will actually be able to see the pictures properly. Honestly, if books keep doing this thing where they put things in the cover, libraries are going to need to work out how to do this better. Okay, so that's the first 3 books on my TBR. Let's pick 3 more. So I've got the TBR machine here. Let's pick our first prompt. Read a book written for young adults. I'm sure I have a few of those on my TBR. Okay, I picked an easy one. I'm gonna go with A Ballad by Maggie Stiefvater. I recently read the first book, Lament. This is the 2nd book in the trilogy. However, the 3rd book in the trilogy has never been published and probably will never be published, but I still kind of want to read it to see what happens. I'm trying to read all of Maggie Stiefvater's stuff, so I'm going to read it. Kind of a story about this girl who starts running into these fairies, and she discovers she has some sort of music-based powers, sort of. And it's a little bit Twilighty in that she falls in love with this dangerous assassin fairy. And honestly, even though I read it recently, I can't remember it, but I don't think that is because of the book. I think it's because of me being too busy lately and forgetting everything. It actually looks from the back of this book like this is going to be written from her friend's perspective. So in the first book, it was kind of a love triangle in that her best friend had a crush on her, but she fell in love with this fairy instead. And this kind of says when his best friend Dee fell in love with a fairy, James realized she'd never feel the same way about him. So I guess it's going to be following him. James is trapped in a dangerous game, one where the only way to win is to betray the one you love. Okay, that sounds cool. I mean, these books were Maggie Stiefvater's kind of first books, so I don't expect them to be amazing, but the first one was pretty easy to read, so I'm going to give it a go. Let us pick the next prompt. Read a book that is out of your comfort zone. I don't want to. I don't want to, though. What if I just don't Okay. There weren't that many options on my TBR because I don't tend to pick up books that are out of my comfort zone for my physical TBR because I'm trying not to buy too many books, and so I'm mostly only buying books that I'm quite interested about. But I do have this book that my sister gave me. So this is Pixel Juice by Jeff Noon. I've put this on my TBR several times and not read it. So that supports the idea that it's out of my comfort zone. As well, it's a short story anthology, which I often struggle with, although it is all by one author, which is something I tend to like more. As well, I believe these are like really weird science fiction-y weird stories, which is something I like, which is why even though I haven't picked this up after putting it on my TBR several times, I've still kept it around because it does seem like something I would like, and my sister said it was good, so we'll try again this month, I guess. Alright, let's pick one last book. Read a book with a purple cover. I feel like I had this the other day and I struggled to find something. Yeah, nah, there isn't one. So I'm actually just gonna skip it because I've had enough of trying to find books for prompts that I don't have. And this is just something that's gonna happen more often as I get closer to TBR 0. And it's okay. It's okay. Alright, so then we've got read a science fiction book. And just as I was looking for that last one, I realized what I should have picked for the YA prompt. So luckily I can pick it for this prompt. Okay, so I'm gonna pick Vortex by S.J. Kincaid. S.J. Kincaid is the author of the Diabolic series, which I really love, and I'm just remembering that I still haven't picked up the third book in that series, which was just released recently. I need to actually track that down. But anyway, Vortex is the second book in the Insignia series. I read Insignia in September and I really liked it. It is a YA science fiction about this boy that gets involved in this intrasolar war. So basically they're having World War III out in space so that it doesn't really bother anyone on Earth, but also the spaceships are controlled remotely by people with neural processors in their brains. However, it actually has a reason in this book for why teenagers are the main characters, and that is because teenagers are the only ones with brains that are able to adapt to control these spaceships. They put them in the brains of adults initially, and the adults all went crazy. So that actually makes sense. Most YA dystopian type science fictions often don't make sense why teenagers are the protagonists. But in this one, it does make sense. And we follow this boy named Tom who starts training to become one of these pilots, and he gets a neural processor put in his head. I really liked the first book, but the main character did do some pretty shitty things near the end, so I'm really interested to see whether this book redeems him or whether he goes further down the dark side. So that's on the TBR as well. So that means this is my TBR for November. Honestly, given my reading pace since I went back to work, this seems optimistic, but I am getting used to working, so I'm getting better at fitting things around work, and I'm not so tired, or like my brain isn't so overwhelmed with learning everything. So maybe if I can keep on top of everything, we'll be hopeful, we'll be optimistic. And I will do the thing again where if I don't finish any of these books, I will punish myself by picking a charity to donate to for every book that I don't finish. So with that in mind, I would love if you have any charities that you think are particularly great, or even like kinds of charities that you think are a good idea to donate to, then please leave me some suggestions down in the comments. Also, I do want to talk about the audiobooks that I want to read in November. So firstly, I think that I'm going to be spending a lot of November listening to the second half of Oathbringer. I did start reading it physically, but when I started a job, I ran out of time to finish it. So I've picked up the audiobook and I'm going to listen to the second half on audiobook. I was hoping to get to that in October, and I might be able to start it, but I definitely won't be able to finish it because it's like a 55-hour audiobook, I think. Although I only need to read half of it because I've already read half of it. So it's not too bad. And plus, I really do like that story, despite the fact that I struggled to get through it. Again, I blame that on getting a new job, which isn't entirely a bad thing because now I have some money and I can afford to live. Bonus. So other audiobooks that I have The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. I honestly was on like a 6-month queue for this, so I need to make sure that I get to this, oh dear, in the next 7 days. 51 people are waiting. I guess I better listen to this before I start Oathbringer. It's good that we're reviewing this. So I want to read The Black Prism, which is the first book in a series where people have magical abilities based on different colors or different spectrums of light, and the Black Prism is this person who can use all the different colors of light. But I also think that when you use this power, it like ages you. It's been a long time since I read the synopsis, so once I've read it, I can give you a better idea. I also have the audiobook for The Deck of Omens by Christine Lynn Herman. This is the sequel to The Devouring Grey, and there's just 2 books because it's a duology. I actually had the physical book on my October TBR, but I didn't get to it. But then I found out I could get the audiobook, so I've decided to get to it that way. And in this series, we have these founding families who protect this town from this demon-type creature that they have trapped away in this fog. Each of the founding families has different kinds of magical abilities, and we're basically following a group of teens who are dealing with the latest escape attempt by this demon. But there's also kind of a generational conflict between them and the adults, and there's a bunch of different like power plays going on between the different families. So I liked the first book. I'm interested to see what the second and final book will do with that. I did also get the next books in a couple of series that I've been reading. So The Golden Tower by Cassandra Clare and Holly Black. That's the last book in the Magisterium series, which I feel like every book in that series has been getting better and better. It's very similar to Harry Potter. We have this boy who is in some way linked to the great evil person, the enemy of death. He's taught right at the beginning that wizards are bad and evil, and so he should try not to get into magic school, but he does get into it, and then he gets involved in a lot of things. And I really like the difficult choices the character is having to make, or at least in the 4th book he was having to make some difficult choices. I don't know what's going to happen in the 5th book, but I'm interested to see. I also have Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, which I believe is the 2nd book in the Grishaverse, which is all about this girl discovering that she has these magical abilities. And then in the 1st book, this dark overlord of the people with magic abilities tried to bring her into her schemes, and she wasn't that interested in them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the 2nd book. So that's how many audiobooks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I count that right? 5 audiobooks is completely doable, and I'll probably pick some more up, I think. So what do you think? Have you read any of these books? Am I gonna like them? I hope so. Do you think I can get through all of them? I hope so, but I guess we will find out. Definitely let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books that I'm going to be reading and whether you think I'm going to like them. Also, don't forget to give me suggestions for charities. I will be posting an update at the end of October about whether I completed my October TBR and what charities I will be donating to as a punishment. I'm pretty sure I'm going to incur at least a couple of punishments because this month has not gone to plan, but maybe November will go to plan. Maybe. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.